If you're a college student in America, chances are you'll end up in debt. But here's the truth nobody tells you, that debt can either trap you for life or make you unstoppable. My name is Kevin, and I am a student at the University of Central Florida. Before I share my story, let me begin with the most important lesson I've learned in the past few years. Debt is not just money you owe. It's a mirror. It reflects your habits, your mindset, and your discipline. And if you learn to face it instead of hiding from it, debt can become your greatest teacher. I didn't understand this lesson until I went through it myself. I grew up in a small rural town in Florida. My parents were hardworking people, but never made much. My dad worked long shifts in construction, sometimes under the scorching sun, sometimes in the pouring rain. My mom cleaned houses and babysat for neighbors just to bring home extra dollars. We weren't poor in spirit, but financially we lived paycheck to paycheck. When I graduated high school and got accepted to UCF, it felt like a miracle. My parents cried when I showed them the acceptance letter. They told me, "Kevin, we can't give you much money, but we'll give you all our support. Make us proud." So when I first started college, I carried their words in my heart. I was careful with every dollar. I cooked instant noodles in my dorm room, bought used textbooks, and walked to campus instead of buying a parking permit. I was determined not to be a burden. But by the time I reached my second year, something changed. I had made new friends. They weren't rich, but their parents seemed to give them allowances. They went out more often, to restaurants, to the movies, to hangouts after class. At first I told myself, I'll just join occasionally. One night, after we had finished a tough exam, my friends decided to celebrate at a nice restaurant. It wasn't fancy, but for me it was a stretch. When the check came, everyone looked at each other awkwardly. Without thinking too much, I said, "Don't worry, I got it." I pulled out my shiny new credit card, something I had received just weeks earlier, mailed to me with the words "Build your credit score" printed on the envelope. I didn't even think. I just swiped. The bill was $76.42. My checking account had less than $40. That night, for the first time, I officially stepped into debt. And something about that moment felt intoxicating. I had paid like an adult. I had covered for my friends. No one knew I was broke. In the days and weeks after, that card became my secret weapon. Coffee when I was tired? Swipe. A new hoodie because it was on sale? Swipe. Takeout when I didn't feel like cooking? Swipe. Each swipe felt easier than the last. I told myself I would pay it off when I got my part-time paycheck, but of course I never did. 6 months later, reality started to catch up with me. At first I didn't notice it. The numbers on my credit card statement seemed harmless. $42 here, $89 there. Nothing I couldn't handle later. But later never came. Each morning as I scrolled through my phone before class, I would see those emails from the bank. "Your statement is ready." I never opened them. I just swiped them away like spam, pretending that ignoring them would somehow make the balance disappear. But guilt has a funny way of catching you when you least expect it. Whenever I bought something unnecessary, a coffee I didn't need, a shirt just because it was on sale, I felt that sharp sting in my chest. My stomach would twist like I had swallowed guilt itself. I'd tell myself, "It's okay, I'll cut back next week." Next week always turned into next month. At night, lying in my small apartment, I'd stare at the cracks in the ceiling and do mental math that never added up. How much do I owe now? How long before the bill comes due? Sometimes I'd imagine the numbers floating above me in red, growing larger every time I exhaled. I made promises. So many promises. This is the last time. I'll stop using the card. I'll pay double next month. Each promise lasted maybe 3 days, sometimes less. Then I'd convince myself I deserved something small for working hard that week. A reward. A $20 dinner became $50 with tips, and soon I stopped checking the prices altogether. The numbers grew like weeds after rain. $500, $200, $3,600. And one morning, as I finally opened my banking app, my hands actually trembling, I saw the total $10,047.82. $10,000. I just sat there staring at the screen. My throat went dry. It didn't even feel real. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. $10,000. More than my parents' entire annual savings. The people who worked themselves to exhaustion just to send me a few hundred each semester. And here I was, their son, buried under a mountain I had built myself. That number wasn't just a balance anymore, it was a reflection of my weakness, my carelessness, my need to look like I belonged, and it was suffocating me. Whenever my mom called, she would ask the same questions. Are you eating well? Do you need money? Her voice always carried a mix of worry and tenderness, the kind that made me feel like I was still her little boy. I would laugh it off and say, "I'm good, Mom. Don't worry about me." I even made up little stories about eating with friends or doing fine at school just to sound convincing. But the truth was different. Every word out of my mouth felt like a betrayal. How could I admit that while she and Dad were pinching pennies back home, working extra shifts, skipping dinners out, I was wasting money on takeout and hoodies I didn't need? I pictured her face if she ever knew. Would she cry? Would Dad go silent, disappointed? I couldn't bear the thought. So I lied. I smiled. And after hanging up, I'd sit there in silence, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my phone before opening my banking app. The numbers glowed an angry red like a warning sign I refused to face. My stomach would twist and sometimes I couldn't eat for hours. Yet the next day, I'd swipe that card again, digging myself deeper. One Saturday afternoon, I walked into Publix with my usual grocery list. Pasta, eggs, bread, maybe some fruit if it was on sale. I filled my basket, walked to the counter, and swiped my card. Declined. I tried again, pretending it was a mistake. Declined. The cashier looked at me with that polite but pitying smile. People behind me were waiting. My face turned hot. I mumbled something about forgetting my other card and left the groceries on the counter. That was the lowest point. I walked out of the store empty-handed, humiliated. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of my small apartment. My thoughts were brutal. What have I done? Why did I let it get this far? I remembered my dad's calloused hands, my mom's tired smile, the way they saved coins in a jar just to help me with books. And here I was, throwing money away on lattes and late-night pizza. For the first time, I cried. Not because of the money, but because I felt like I had betrayed their trust. And then came the turning point. I whispered to myself, if I created this debt, I can destroy it. If I could dig this hole, I can climb out. That night, I made a pact with myself. No more running, no more hiding. Debt wasn't going to be my prison. It was going to be my fuel. The very next morning, I searched online for part-time jobs. Most paid minimum wage, but then I stumbled on freelancing. I had always been decent with words, so I started writing small blog posts for people online. Then came editing short TikTok-style videos. Then simple graphic designs on Canva. At first, the pay was tiny. $20 here, $50 there. But those small victories felt better than any swipe of a credit card ever did. I began tracking every payment I made toward my debt. Each 100 felt like reclaiming a piece of my freedom. To make it work, I had to change my habits. I stopped going out every weekend. I stopped buying clothes I didn't need. When friends invited me to expensive places, I told them honestly, I can't. I'm saving. Surprisingly, some respected me more for it. A few even joined me in cooking cheap meals at home instead of dining out. I bought discounted groceries, froze leftovers, and carried water instead of buying soda. Before swiping my card, I would ask myself, will this purchase make my future self proud? Slowly, I felt myself regaining control. 11 months later, I had done the impossible. The $10,000 mountain was nearly gone. only a few $100s left, which I could clear with one more freelance project. But more important than the number was the transformation. I had become disciplined, resilient, focused. I had learned to say no to my impulses, to peer pressure, even to temporary pleasures. And that lesson will stay with me long after college. So here is my message to every student watching this. Debt doesn't have to destroy you. If you let it, it can build you. You will probably face debt. It's part of the American college experience. But don't let it control you. Use it as motivation to learn skills, to earn, to manage, and to grow. Never forget where you come from, and never put the weight of your mistakes on your parents' shoulders. They carried you far enough. Now it's your turn to carry yourself. Today, when I look back, I don't just see the boy who fell into debt. I see the man who climbed out and became stronger because of it. You can't always avoid debt, but you can decide what kind of debt you carry. One that drags you down or one that pushes you to rise. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in debt? And how did you handle it? Leave a comment below, smash the like button if this helped you, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.